Go ahead. Go.
My name is Matt Pangrek, and I do a show called Bass Talk Live. And then every Thursday, we do a show called Day 4 with Frank Scalish. That's Frank Scalish.
Hi, I'm Frank Scalish.
Former Elite Series pro in the Ohio Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Also a noted lure painter and designer. And we have done 251 of these.
252.
252. Logic. So we've done 252. I thought the last one was 251, and this is 252.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what I was reading. I said we've done 251 because we haven't done the show yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this would be logically the 252nd show.
Tracking. I'm on it.
Where Frank gives hot tips on how to catch more bass, all three species, largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass, often using diagrams and videos. And then occasionally, when the bosses call from upstairs, we ask you to buy things off lurenet.com using the code capital BTL25 to get 15% off regularly priced items.
Yes, that is what keeps us going on this show. That was the weirdest start in 251 episodes. That was the strangest start.
For those of you who are curious on what Frank Scalish looked like in the 1970s.
Dude, what a chick magnet.
I mean, that needs to be hanging in every room of your house, Frank.
That is never. So I was very confused at a certain point to where you were obtaining said photos. Okay.
Now I will be 100% honest. I technically do not know the name of this individual. And this is just one of four people. Well, no, this is one of four people
I know
who supply vintage Frank Scalish photos.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Now, all these are from different individuals.
Yeah, I know.
This one is the most recent, and also, some might say, using a little bit of slang, the swaggiest of the bunch.
Yeah.
Do you still have that black leather jacket, Frank?
Pull it up again. Let me see the collar. I do not have that one. I have a different one.
What do you remember about that Trans Am that you're leaning over the driver's side? That looks like a vehicle that could potentially get you into a pickle here and there back in your younger days.
It got me in many a pickle. It got me in many a pickle. That was if I'm not mistaken, that was the Night Rider version of the Trans Am. I had a gold Trans Am at one point in time. That was more Smokey and the Bandit-esque. Except that doesn't have T-tops, and my other one had T-tops. What the hell?
I don't know what I'm not a very big car guy.
I'm not sure.
You went through so many Trans Ams back in the day that you can't remember specifically which one that is.
Well, here's the thing, okay? Not to go down this rabbit hole, but the original Trans Am that I had was true posi track rear end 454 4-barrel, and it flew. It was a freaking monster, and I loved the car. And then I believe I went away to college, and my sister cracked it up, and we had to get rid of it. And then I got another one, the black one, like the Night Rider, but it was a little bit disappointing because it had limited slip rear end. Didn't have the go fast abilities that the other one had, but it had way better handling capabilities. The suspension was much better, handled corners really well. Where the old one, well, I say the old one, they're both old now, but the older version was just an animal off the line, and but its cornering handling was nowhere near as good as the newer version. So yeah.
When was the last time you got behind the wheel of a Trans Am?
Probably that one.
I feel like
it was a long time
I feel
ago.
like you need to get a new one. not
Here,
a
I'll
new
tell you.
one, but I feel like you should get. Yeah, I feel like that would be a
No,
get around car. You and Rachel get that for an evening date. Hop in a restored Trans Am, head down to the local pub.
no, no. I towed a bass boat with that car.
What?
Yeah, that was my tow vehicle.
I love it.
Yeah, I had a black and silver champion and a black and red champion, and that's what
Oh
I
my
towed with
God.
that car.
Oh, they had to hate when you showed up. They knew they were just toast
Nah,
at the local jackpot.
no, they knew they were taking a lot of money from me back then. But we changed that around in a hurry.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That is a phenomenal. So anyway, that's just a little backstory on who you are.
Yeah, I took that car. Me and Troy, because all my bad stuff. Me and Troy were involved. We took that to a farm in southern Ohio, and I was literally blowing through the cornfields in that car, where the corn was just knocking off, off the car, and then we buried it in the mud. And we spent most of the day trying to get it out of the mud, and then we went to the farm pond that was in the back of that farm and hammered some bass.
Somewhat similar to this. Do you know what movie I just watched for the first time last week?
No.
Had never seen it.
Smokey and the Bandit?
Yeah, how'd you know?
Yeah, because we're talking about Trans Ams.
I had never seen Smokey and the Bandit, and I had a little downtime. I was actually smoking some meat on the Traeger, and I had some downtime, and it popped up as recommended, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna watch that. Had never watched it before. Great flick.
It's a great flick.
Movie.
It's great. Sally Fields is phenomenal in it.
Buford T. Justice.
Yeah, Buford T. Justice.
his vehicle was toast by the end of that thing.
yeah. It's seen better days. Yeah, that's great. It's a great flip.
Yeah. So last week, we bloviated last week, but you had talked about how you went out on and had a really good day throwing a Nico rig, but you got around a specific type of vegetation. What was the name of the grass that you did not catch them in?
Sago pondweed.
Sago pondweed.
Which you pulled up a couple episodes earlier. But that also kind of led us down a path of identifying productive grass, identifying patterns, and we're going to go 5 years back kind of into the archives of day 4 where we talked about vegetation and did that, but we never put everything kind of together in one show. There's a lot new technology out now to where you're not just looking at vegetation, submerged vegetation on 2D or side imaging. You can see what it looks like on forward facing sonar. You can identify the different types, and that can lead to more productive patterns on the water. And yes,
so
I'm so
you
glad you said that, because I actually made a drawing of kind of what it looks like on forward facing sonar too. So they'll be able to see. Yeah.
So that's what we're going to dive into today is identifying and fishing underwater grass to help you catch more fish.
Yeah, and it's mostly on weed. This is mostly on identification, because we do a lot on how to fish this stuff, but it's mostly identification. And so the one thing that I want to go through, and there's, okay, so up north in the northern regions of the country, we've got basically 3 main types of underwater vegetation, submerged vegetation, and it's going to be milfoil, cabbage grass, and coontail. We have eelgrass as well. Those are the main vegetations that we have. The emergent vegetation varies, okay, from lake to lake, region to region. So we're not going to really cover emergent because most of it's shallow anyway, in the form of lily pads, bulrushes, water willow, stuff like that. So we're not going to really get into that. I really want to cover the grass that you're going to find underwater.
Milfoil, cabbage, coontail.
Right. And
in
so
some instances,
eelgrass.
eelgrass.
So I'm not eelgrass for, I don't have a diagram of eelgrass, but eelgrass basically looks like lawn grass, only it's real long and, it's just a one broad leaf. Well, there's more than one, but it's just a broadleaf plant. It looks like lawn grass essentially. On a typical lake, okay, is this whole thing on the screen?
Absolutely.
Okay, on a typical lake, you'll have your milfoil, you'll have your cabbage grass, and then you'll have your coontail. Now, I put rock piles in here because these were high percentage fishing spots for an old show we did. But a lot of times what you'll have is you'll have the coontail will be right up against the cabbage grass. And then it grows deeper than that even. And so what happens is you'll have your shallow water, you'll have your milfoil mix with your cabbage. You'll have your coontail mix with your cabbage. And then your coontail, as it goes deeper, stands alone. The coontail will grow deeper. For the most part, that's the target zone in summertime fishing, is I want the deepest grass I could find. And these are native vegetation. So I'm going to show you hydrilla, and hydrilla can grow mega deep. But hydrilla is an invasive species, so we'll dabble. Here's what I really want to show you, because here's the confusion. If you look at milfoil looks real bushy and fluffy in the water. Coontail looks tight and green, vibrant green, and it's crispy. So a lot of people will confuse milfoil with coontail, because when you say coontail, you think of a raccoon's tail. It's big and fluffy, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really the deal. Okay, so that is, what is that, milfoil?
That's milfoil.
Yeah, so that's milfoil. So you see how fluffy it looks?
Mm-hmm.
Don't confuse that. That is not coontail. So here's the best identification that you could use. If you take a piece of milfoil, all right, you take a piece of milfoil and you pluck one of these segments off of it, it's going to look like 5 feathers sticking off of it. Where if you did coontail grows and it's really tight and rigid. It's super tight and rigid. It's not very wide. And if you took one of these segments out of that, it would be a ton like this, not just 5, but it would be more than that. But that's what it would look like. But it's really tight and it's really crispy. With coontail, you could run a crankbait into it and snap the crankbait, and it poofs right through the coontail. Okay.
Coontail, milfoil.
Yeah. So
Coontail,
that's
milfoil.
right. So that's the difference. And so where the milfoil, when you hit it with a crankbait, it's going to wrap around the crankbait most of the time. And so that's really the differences between the two. Now here's the hydrilla, and I have to show you hydrilla because a lot of people down south have this is very prominent. So the hydrilla grows in a single stem plant that grows up, and this stuff could grow 20 feet deep. And when you take a segment of the hydrilla out, you're going to see 5 to 8 leaves around the stalk like that. Yeah, perfect. That's hydrilla. And so we have a native grass here called alodia. And alodia looks exactly like hydrilla, except it's only got 3 leaves around the stalk. And that's the identification of alodia versus hydrilla. So that's really how we're going to identify, the grass for the most part. Is that
that's Alodia.
Yeah, that's Alodia. So you
That's
see the Alodia and the hydrilla look almost identical.
Yep.
Except the one's only got 3 leaves around it, and the hydrilla can have 5 to 8 leaves around it, around the stalk.
Sweet.
And so that's very, very important to know. So here's what I've encountered. So back in the old days, grass fishing was my biggest weak spot in my arsenal. I didn't understand it. I saw grass and just thought bass were in the grass. I got to fish the grass, and my success was very lackluster, to say the least. I would have a couple good days, and I would have a bunch of bad days.
Sounds like my experience with grass.
Yeah, where I just couldn't put the pieces of the puzzle together. So what I did when I was younger was I picked a place out that had multiple grass species in it, and I went there all the time to try to figure out how the bass use this stuff, what they wanted. Back then I was kind of an idiot. I didn't understand what grass was what. I didn't know any of the names of the stuff. All I knew was what it looked like. And I used to do what everybody does. I confused milfoil with coontail all the time. I was calling them the wrong things. I didn't understand. Cabbage grass is the easiest to recognize because theoretically it looks like corn stalks with big broad leaves that come off of it. I hope you have a good picture of that if you could find cabbage grass.
I'm getting a lot of actual cabbages.
Yeah, that's maybe go underwater vegetation cabbage grass. So anyway, so the cabbage grass was the easiest to identify. And back in the old days, I used to call it tobacco weed because to me it looked like a tobacco plant. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about it. So I spent hours and hours and days fishing in this crap, trying to figure everything out. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And so anyhow, so what I discovered was that bass preferred certain grasses over other ones predicated on depth range, bottom composition, not so much time of year. Time of year puts the bass shallow. So milfoil and cabbage grass, eelgrass becomes very important at that point because it puts the bass shallow. Your emergence become important when the bass are shallow. Your water willow, your bulrushes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's because they're going shallow. Me being an offshore guy, I was more interested in what happens when the bass get out of the shallow water and how they use it when they're out of the shallow water. That's when I started discovering that the deeper vegetation was coontail up here, milfoil where you guys are. Milfoil fishes a lot different than coontail. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Milfoil grows up tall. It has tons of caverns and caves underneath it. The bass, you could be punching in what the hell?
Milfoil?
No, you could be punching in hydrilla, not milfoil. I'm sorry. You could be punching in hydrilla in 15 feet or over 15 feet of water. It could be matted on top, and the roots of the hydrilla are in the bottom. And that's when you would discover, when you punch through that crap, if the bass hit it right away, if they hit it halfway down, or if they hit it when it was on the bottom. That would give you tell you where
there it is right there. Like you can see literally the holes and the caverns in the hydrilla.
Yes. And so that was the important aspect of the hydrilla. I didn't concern myself much with the hydrilla because we didn't really have it here.
Okay.
So I didn't really concern myself with that. I learned about hydrilla on one of the first times I ever went to Santee Cooper. That's when I really got a lesson in that particular grass because it used to be everywhere. And it was miles and miles of
intimidating as hell.
Yeah, and we used to run right over it,
Yep.
run right through it. And so the trick that I could tell you with that particular grass, since we got a lot of guys from down south that live here, you ignore that grass and you look at the structure below the grass. To tell you what your high percentage punch spots were in that grass was I would look for the contours, the topography, and look for all the high spots, because you can't see any of that when the hydrilla is a 1.5 mile mat. So I would look at the structure map, see where the high spots were, get my boat to the high spots, and I would punch on the high spots. That's how I was able to take a 3 mile long mat and eliminate it to 4 spots. The other trick with the hydrilla is ditches. So when the hydrilla grows over shallower water, like let's say 4 feet to 10 feet deep, ditches become important. And so I would run over to those places and I would punch the ditch edge where it drops down. So I would be literally punching the topography where the break line came down. And that's how I was able to.
You're treating it like timber, Frank.
Yes.
You're treating it like timber, like a Toledo bend, where if you just go out and start flipping wood, you have no idea what you're doing. But if you treat it like there is no wood, and then you focus on the wood that's on the structure and the bottom composition, then
Correct.
you're putting it in high percentage. So even though completely unrelated, exactly the same.
Exactly the same. So everything I do fishing wise, no matter what time of year it is, it's always structure first. I always look at topography first because that puts me in high percentage places. There are times when a bass will use nothing flats, but if you use topography first, you're always going to be in a higher percentage range. And so that's what I do when you've got miles and miles of grass and you can't decipher it. Ignore the grass, go to the structure, and then fish the grass appropriately. And you'll narrow your search down, you'll catch more bass, and you'll get to them quicker. In the old days, what I used to do is drop my trolling motor down and run 2 mile edge of grass fishing it. And I could never understand how guys could fish grass all day and catch so many fish, because I would just go down and be fishing endless stretches of wasted water until I started applying the structure game to the grass game. And in here, rock piles on the outside edge of grass, there we got something different connected to the grass, high percentage spot. You start looking at things like that. Then I realized, when I started really paying attention to the grass lake, then I realized if I found 2 types of vegetation together, that was another high percentage bite zone. And so then I would go, okay, I've got this huge stretch of milfoil, but now I got cabbage grass on the outside of the milfoil. And I would go in and fish the line between the milfoil and the cabbage grass. And all of a sudden I was starting to catch more fish. And then I realized it was multiple types of vegetation in the same area could offer you the same advantage as a structural element could, because now they're keying in on the 2 or 3 types of grass rather than one long stretch of one version of it. So that's how I started to learn how to break it down. I still wasn't too happy with my offshore grass game because I was still kind of confused on it. Then I realized that up north, the coontail is growing much deeper than the rest of them. And so now it was the coontail that became the element of what I needed to focus on. So I would get my deep crankbaits out, my DD22s, my fat-free 7s, and I would start cranking this deep coontail. And then my offshore grass game got better, more predictable. And in that situation, I use the structure is the same, understanding the steeper the break, the steeper the grass edge, the more gradual the break, the more gradual the grass edge. And that's when I'm going to see if I got this picture. I think I do. I may not have it in here. That's when I realized that the gradual I don't have it. I'm not going to look for it. But that's when I realized, well, we'll just go this. This is very gradual.
Mhm.
So that's when I realized this gradual grass game in here offered me the ability to now, instead of paralleling a steep break, I could walk a crankbait down the break line because it's super gradual. So the steeper, the more vertical the grass break, the more parallel, the more gradual that I'm casting at an angle and bringing it down the grass edge, always paying attention to the depth of my bites, because the depth of the bite was telling me how deep the bass wanted to be in that grass. The other thing that came into play was when I had lakes with mixed largemouth and smallmouth. That became the other key of the puzzle, so to speak, to unlock. And what I found out with the smallmouth game was, if I had any rock on the outside edge of the grass or any rock openings on up into the grass a little ways, those were my high percentage areas. And so little by little, I started piecing all of the grass game together, where fishing these massive vegetated lakes was no longer an issue. It was starting to come really natural fishing them. And now I can't say I prefer fishing grass lakes versus non-grass lakes, but I can fish both of them with no intimidation. Where before, when we would go to a grass lake for a tournament game, I'd be like, oh my God, we're going to a grass lake. What am I going to do? Now then after I learned all this, and then when we go to the grass lakes, it didn't matter to me because I had it pretty much dialed in. So coming into the new age of electronics, I knew what the grass looked like on live scope. I mean, on side imaging. I knew what the grass looked like on 2D. The problem with 2D sonar is that milfoil, coontail, and hydrilla look the same on 2D sonar. So that became a matter of snagging the grass and seeing what it was visibly. Cabbage grass, you could tell on 2D sonar because it didn't look the same. It was more vertical. It didn't look the same. And then once live scope came out, identifying the grass on live scope took me a matter of one day on the water, because I already knew what types of vegetation was where. So I went and looked at it all with live scope. And so what I did was I drew this to show you here. I got to write this down on the back so I could see milfoil, cabbage, saga pond crap. So what I did was I wound up going on side imaging, and this is what milfoil looks like on side imaging. It's real balloony. It's fluffy. It almost looks like cloud cover.
It's like cotton candy.
Yes, cotton candy. Cabbage grass is by far the easiest to notice, because you almost see the separation in the stalks and the leaf, the leaves on it, because the leaves are broad. So you see that. The sago pondweed, because I'm finding that I can't catch bass out of it, the sago pondweed looks all blurry and fuzzy in the middle with a few strands sticking up out of the top. And that's what the sago look like on forward-facing sonar. So once I realized that, now I can go down a grass ledge and scan, scoping, and I could go, oh my gosh, there's the coontail. That's what we need to fish. And then boom, boom, boom. And so the other day, that's exactly what I did the other day. Because the grass changes. I don't want to say it changes location, but it changes. It grows. Some years it grows great in places, and then other years it doesn't come back and grows somewhere else. And so to cover water fast, I just started scoping it, 85 feet, and just starting to run down the grass, just going back and forth like the scopers scope for bass. I was scoping for grass. and just going down, doing like that. And as soon as I saw the cotton candy or the clouds, I knew that was where we had to fish. And I already had the depth range established. The thermocline was at 23 feet. The bass were using 10 to 15. And so I knew that. So I was just backing out, scoping around. When I would see it out in the right depth range, then we would fish it, then we would catch them. That's really the offshore grass game. And like I said, hydrilla is a tad bit different because I've seen that stuff grow so deep. It's like, holy crap. And the only thing I did in that situation was I'd do the vertical edges of it. And then I would go look for high spots and ditches where I can actually target something that had more meaning without the grass. And that's how I started catching them in the grass. And the cool thing with underwater vegetation is if there's a lot of grass, you could see where the rocks are because the grass won't grow in the rocks. So you could see it. The problem came into the shallower rock piles where the grass would canopy up over the top of it. That's when you have to use your topographical mapping to understand it. The only other way to do it is go in the winter and side image the crap out of the places where the grass grows with side imaging to find the rock piles, the ditches and stuff like that. And it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. If it's a home lake of yours and you live by it, it's totally 100% worth every hour you spend doing that. You got a question? You got something in your mind, Matt?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know about this now, but one of the biggest things that a lot of the map companies are doing, Frank, is they're providing bottom hardness on their mapping, on their premium mapping chips. And there's some elements that you can either download it or you can actually go out and do it yourself, where you're like, it used to be called in Genesis and CMAP. I don't know if they're still doing it, but
yeah,
I say that. So like on Omnia, like if you have a premium membership there, they have like a bottom hardness in their like mapping. So like when you were saying that, I'm gonna pull this up. So like this is, I think, Winnebago. I've never even been on this lake ever.
No, right? I have not either.
Okay, so this is what the lake looks like. This is what
regular
this is just an
mapping.
Example. This is what the vegetation looks like, and this is the bottom hardness.
Damn.
So you can, what you were saying is find where the bottom hardness is, then see where the vegetation overlaps the bottom hardness, and now you've basically just hacked exactly what you said by being able to go where the hardest bottom meets the vegetation.
Right. And so the crazy thing is the grass will change from time to time. It won't always be in the same places. Your hard bottoms will stay the same. Your rocks will definitely stay the same. Some hard bottoms will get silt on them if they're not rock. Dying vegetation creates a slime layer on the hard bottom, which also has issues. Like curly leaf pondweed grows massively from ice out until the water temperature hits 70 degrees. Once it gets over 70, that stuff dies. And when it dies, it turns black, slimy, and gooey. And it literally
gorilla snot.
Yeah, it literally encases the rocks. And when you drag something and touches the bottom, it gets a glob of black, gunky slime on it. The bass can't stand that. And so in that situation, then I got to go to all my rock piles and my hard bottom areas and find stuff that were out of the curly leaf pond zone, so the rocks would still be rock and the bass would still use them. So understanding your vegetation and what it does and everything also will give you a better understanding of where you need to look for bass when the vegetation's growing, when it's dying, et cetera, et cetera. And so your shallower grasses in the wintertime die first.
Okay.
because the shallower water is getting colder faster. It's dying first. Your deeper grass dies back, but like coontail, deep coontail, a lot of times doesn't die. It's still vibrant, crispy, and green in the wintertime in the deeper zones. The grass that's closer to the surface dies down, but that plant is still green in the winter. Where milfoil dies off in the winter, and you'll have, it'll be dying little milfoil stalks and stuff like that.
Always better to fish grass that's live and green. Is there ever a time where you're going to you're wanting to look for or catch bass out of grass that doesn't look healthy or appears to be dying or is sparse, or are you always going to look for the thickest, healthiest grass on a lake?
I look for the greenest vegetation I could find. Milfoil's a little bit tricky because I've had times.
Milfoil looks dark sometimes. Plus, it also is limp when you take it out of the water. So
correct.
You combine those two elements, and it appears as though it is dying.
Right, and in instances, it's not really. It's just aged.
But you're always going to look for the crispest stuff.
Yeah, I try to. I've had to. Now this is submerged.
Is that a valid question? I mean, that's a valid question.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Okay.
This is submerged vegetation.
Right. That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. Emergence different.
Yeah.
Because old lily pad fields early in the spring, dynamite.
Yeah.
Old bulrush stalks and stuff early in the spring, dynamite.
And there's a lot of crap on the bottom there, and you've got silt and you've got dead vegetation, and it's hard to flip it, and you're looking for the hard spots that those fish have cleaned off that are sitting on to get to nest. But we're talking about the offshore, submergent, not emergent, that type of stuff. So let's say this. Let's say I'm on a place and I have used your techniques. I've used my contour map to identify high percentage areas. I'm looking for ditches. I'm looking for high spots. I'm looking for drop-offs. I've then used my 2D or my forward-facing or my side imaging to locate. I see grass down there. I can identify based on what it kind of looks like on the side imaging and the forward-facing what type I think it is. And I cast a rattle bait, a Carolina rig, a crankbait out there, and I pull it in, and it just doesn't look very healthy. Does that mean that it's not healthy in the entire lake, that it's dying in the entire lake on that? Or does that mean, hey, I need to keep looking because there's a good chance somewhere in the lake there's healthy patches of this, and that's going to concentrate the fish even more. So now I need to refine my search and continue testing that grass until I find something that looks healthier? Is it once it's in the lake dying, it's dying all over the lake?
No, they don't. It all doesn't. The only weed I know that dies fairly rapidly and almost consistently is curly leaf pondweed.
Okay.
Coontail, I found crisp green coontail in the middle of January.
And all the rest of it looks like crap.
Yeah, where this stuff is vibrant green. It's like green. It's like vibrant.
Yeah. Or in the middle of August when it's the hottest, the oxygen content's the lowest. Now, let me ask you this. Where does thermocline play into this line, and does the thermocline impact the vibrancy life of the grass, or is most of the grass you're going to find always be above the thermocline?
I've not found grass below a thermocline in my life.
Okay, so that also tells you, if you combine what you did where the structure, where the bait is the thermocline, where the structure is, you always want to stay above that. So if you jump on the water this time of year, you drop it, you see a thermocline in 22 feet of water, you're looking at your map, you're going to look 20 feet or less.
Yes, exactly. And
it's really another element that you can just knock out a bunch of good looking structural elements.
Correct.
Based on the thermocline on the lake. And that thermocline on the lake is consistent for the most part on a lake that doesn't fish like 3 or 4 different lakes.
Yeah, it's consistent. I'm going to call it zone consistency. Yes. So if I'm by the dam and I find the thermocline in 30 feet of water, that's going to be very consistent what you're going to find on the bottom third of the lake. As you start to progress where the lake gets shallower and shallower, the thermocline in the midsection of the lake may be at 25 feet or 20 feet, where when you get to the river section of the lake, it may not exist. So you have to you have to understand that. And in very current oriented reservoirs, there may be no thermocline. In a river system, you may have a thermocline in a deep pocket water somewhere, but for the most part, current is going to eliminate a thermocline because it's constantly moving water. It's constantly flushing through the system.
Is there a portion of a lake, and you'd have to separate this into man-made or natural, where you are more likely to find productive submergent vegetation than otherwise, as far as meaning as, hey, there's a boat ramp that's on the north end of this lake, there's a boat ramp that's down on the south end by the dam where it's a little bit more wide open, you have a boat ramp in the middle of the lake, you want to look for this submergent vegetation. Is there a part of the lake where it has a more inclination to set up and hold fish?
No, not really. The thing that I noticed is this: usually reservoirs are clearer by the dam, so your grass could grow deeper by the dam. And so, because the grass grows predicated on light penetration. And so what I found is that I could have deeper vegetation in the clearer zones of the lake than in the off-colored zone. So what pattern I get up at the dam, let's say, that depth range may not translate farther up the lake because the grass is only going to grow so deep in the off-color water. So that could change. That part of your pattern could change, where you might be catching them 15 to 18 at the dam feet deep. You might go more towards the river and your zone's 8 to 12 because the grass won't grow deeper because it's not as clean. The water's not as clear. Now, on natural lakes, you generally have a pretty consistent water color. So on natural lakes, you're going to find your grass growing relatively the same throughout the system.
Like a Cayuga, it's pretty much seems like the grass edge at Cayuga is the same.
Yeah. Same on Oneida.
Mm-hmm. Do you, when you get out there, you've located it, you think it what it is, before, are you going to fish it, or are you going to try to snag some and actually put eyes and hands on the vegetation before you really dive into picking it apart?
I used to do that all the time, but now I kind of recognize it pretty easily on.
Okay. But if you're just getting into it, if you're listening to this and you want to do that, you'd recommend put a 3/4 ounce trap on, take a DD22, get something down there, get it caught in it, and then slowly reel it in, see
Bring
what
it
you've
up.
got, identify it, smell
it
it, look at the color of it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I like the other day when we were fishing, I was throwing a 1/2 ounce jig, a 1/2 ounce slip sinker rig, a Nico, and a crankbait. So here's the deal. So I'd get the jig and just blindly, I throw the jig up to the grass and I start working it out down the grass. It gets in the grass and I tighten up the line a little bit and I start pulling back and shaking my rod tip, and it just poof comes right over the grass and down. I knew instantly it was coontail. Instantly, by how it reacted in the grass. When I would pull it and it would get heavy, and I would pull it some more and it would get heavy, and then I go to snap it through and the grass was on it, unless I snagged a clump of coontail on the actual jig hook, it was sago pondweed or eelgrass. And I knew it instantly, just by what the lure was telling me it was doing. Most of the time, milfoil, you could see the milfoil, you could see the cabbage grass. It's close enough to the surface and it's shallow enough where you could physically lay eyes on it. So you could visually see it. So for the most part, it's the deep offshore grass that needs the more identification, so you could fish that stuff. The trick with sight fishing the grass is that you have to determine if the bass are using like cabbage grass and the cabbage and the coontail mix, or the cabbage and the milfoil mix.
Because mixing is always good. a
Yes.
mixture of grass is always better than
Yes.
a carpet of one type of grass.
Correct. Unless I'm fishing deep offshore grass, because the cabbage won't grow that deep, and usually the milfoil won't grow that deep.
Yeah, so then you're stuck with the coontail.
Yeah, and it's not being stuck. It's what you want. But so here, so like a couple summers ago, I was on a lake, and it has all the grasses we're talking about.
Milfoil, cabbage, coontail, eelgrass.
Correct. So it was super imperative that I was on the outside edge of the cabbage grass where the coontail met the cabbage grass. That was the bite zone. And it was so specific that if I cast 5 or 6 feet into the cabbage grass, I didn't catch a bass until I got on that edge. Fast forward to a year ago, same lake, summertime. I was offshore cranking the grass, was catching nothing of any size or any consequence. I kept thinking I'm on the wrong edge. I spent the entire day like an idiot running deep coontail. End of the day, I made a decision to go up, and so I went to the cabbage coontail edge, didn't catch anything. I made a long throw all the way up into the cabbage, and I caught one. It was a 5-pounder. I've told the story a million times. It was a 5-pounder. I started fishing down, doing the same thing, and never caught another one for 30, 40 yards. I went back to where I caught the first one, looked where I cast, and I saw a really bright green spot. I went up to it, and I grabbed it and pulled it out, and it was brand new cabbage growth coming out. It was super green. The cabbage was like a green pumpkin, watermelon-y color looking. The new stuff was super green, like glow green almost. And then I went down that grass flat, and that grass flat was probably, I'm going to say 400 yards long. I went down that grass flat back and forth with my trolling motor on high, and everywhere I saw a bright green spot, I pitched in there and I caught a 4 to 6 pounder. By the end of the 45 minutes I did that, I had 27 pounds.
I'm hearing transitions are key. So like the mixture, but also right where that mixture starts.
Yes, it's like I said, you're playing a percentage game.
Yeah.
So the one time I was there, they wanted to be in the in the cabbage grass and in the cabbage grass, like way in it, in the flat, 4 to 5 feet deep, 4 to 6 feet deep. One time they were right on the edge where the cabbage met the coontail, and it just so happens that edge was starting to break in the contour line.
Okay.
So did they want the mix of vegetation, or did they want the break in the contour line?
Or both.
Or both. Now, there was earlier in the season, I was catching them on the inside of the cabbage where the milfoil met the cabbage.
Transition.
So
I'm looking at it. If you suck at grass like I do, I try to put it in terms of something that I'm familiar with. So it's like a mud line, a shade line, an actual ledge, or the shadow of a boulder.
Yeah.
So it's the same type of thing you're looking for. It's just a different element.
Correct.
The same location. So here's what I've got. I have below, in, around, or above, and then I have milfoil, cabbage, coontail, and eelgrass. And I don't know if this is going to work, but I want, as a general rule of thumb, I want to talk about the grass, and then traditionally or high percentage wise, where you're going to put your bait. So like when we're fishing milfoil, are you traditionally going to want to put it below, in, around, or above?
Milfoil is a shallower grass for the most part. And so if you're fishing above it, if the bass are aggressive, they'll come right up and eat whatever you're throwing, like frogging and stuff like that on the Mississippi. The milfoil's a good bet. It's a good bet. But you're also going to have to put something in it, because what if they're using the root base as their...
So that's where I'm saying cover. Below. but it's
Correct.
hard to catch them in milfoil in the middle of milfoil.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
tricky. It's not deep enough. Now, I've seen it in cabbage and I've seen it in coontail, and I've
Well, that's what we're going to get
absolutely
down. We're going to go down each of the grasses
okay.
just as a general rule of thumb. So
Okay.
milfoil is typically going to be above or below, which is through it at the base of it. So you're
Correct.
punching something through it or you're bringing something above it.
Correct.
The cabbage, below, in, around, or above.
Okay, could be all of
Okay.
be all of those things. And the only way you're going to know is to fish it. Like what I do before the cabbage reaches the surface is I'll run a chatterbait over it, see if they're on anything fast moving. I'll run a top water over it, see if they want something on the surface, and then I'm going to pitch something in it. Now here's the thing. Now with the cabbage and the coontail, now we're going to get a little tricky. So for the most part with cabbage, I'm going to pitch something in there I can get to the bottom of the stalks.
Okay.
I pay attention to where the bite comes because cabbage is a little bit more sturdy. So when you flip into it at a distance, you could feather it down over a cabbage limb, cabbage leaf. You could feather the bait down over the stalk. I want to see where that bite comes from. Most of the time, if the bass are suspended in the cabbage, you're going to get them on a moving bait.
But they will suspend in the cabbage more than they'll suspend in milfoil. They'll usually
milfoil's not giving them the range.
I'm just saying, just as a general rule of thumb. So that makes sense of how you need to attack each one of these in the column of where it grows.
My 2 best days in the cabbage grass has been with a 1/2 ounce slip sinker, Texas rig, and a top water. Those were my 2 best days in the cabbage because they were coming up to eat it. And if they weren't coming up to eat it, they were in the root ball. And so it was really an easy day of fishing because all I would do is throw the top water, chick, 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 get a blow up. I'd go right where I got the fish on the top water. I'd pick up the slip sinker rig and start poking around there and catch several more. The top water was showing me the location in the mass field of grass, and I can pick it apart with the slip sinker rig.
So if I get this right, based on what you say in the coontail, which typically grows the deepest during the summer, during the winter or whatnot, that is going to be an in and above.
Or in, above or around.
In, above or around that. But that's not really something that you're going to be punching coontail. You're typically going to be bringing something through it, and because of the way the genetic makeup of that coontail, you can rip stuff through, you can get it through. It's typically doesn't bind up. Those fish can be in the coontail, around the coontail. Yeah,
so coontail, I'm using several techniques. I'm going to use the Nico, the Ned technique. I'm going to use a heavy jig and a heavy slip sinker rig, and then I'm going to have a light slip sinker rig on. And of course, crankbaits. But the reason being is because if the bass are using the coontail as a form of cover for ambush, they may want something lightly fluttering down, and they come up and get it, aka Flick Shake, Ned, Nico. If they're on the edge related stuff, the deep stuff, the crankbait could call them up out of it to get it. And then the crankbait's doing double duty because I could fish the rocks on the outside edge and call them out of it and get the ones that are on the rocks, using the rocks and then taking cover in the grass. It's really bizarre, but I have found that when I'm fishing shallow, the milfoil seems to be very important. When I'm fishing deeper, the coontail seems to be very important. And in my mid-range, it's the edge of the cabbage, either inside edge or outside edge of the cabbage, to break it down as simple as I can. I'm not really feathering stuff through the cabbage because everything snags on it. And so I'm weedless in the cabbage or moving bait, top water.
Now you are feathering stuff through eelgrass though, because that is a pain in the ass. Like eelgrass, not below, not in, that's around and above for the eelgrass, right?
It's a round or above, or I'm going to the root ball. And here, I'll give you a perfect example. Bo Dowden won the Classic on the St. Lawrence a billion years ago, and he was flipping a black and blue jig in the eelgrass. But he wasn't just flipping the black and blue jig in the eelgrass. What he was doing was he noticed that the current rolled all the eelgrass over. And so what happened was the eelgrass rolls over with the current. I'm going to draw this as fast as I can, and hopefully it doesn't look stupid. The eelgrass would roll over in the current, and the bass were using it like this. So the eelgrass rolls over. Oh man, alive. I can't. So the eelgrass rolls over with the current going over it, rolls over. This is the root ball. Bo is flipping the jig through here to get the jig into this zone right in here. And that's how he was catching them all. And so understanding that eelgrass is very long and flowy, when the current rolls over it, it takes no current hardly at all to make all that grass go the way the wind current is or the real current is. But understanding that eelgrass grows from a single root and has a bunch of big long leaves that come off of that root, when the current goes, the thick part of the root base is sturdier than, as the grass gets longer, it gets more hair-like, and it flows with the current. Knowing that this stands up and goes this way, this offers the bass a current break and cover at the same time. And bass love overhead cover. So this offers them the best of both worlds. What he figured out is he could punch where the grass was rolling over and put the jig right into the fish.
There's the 1980 Classic, by the way.
Outstanding.
On the St. Lawrence River. Yeah. Largemouth. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's how that one came about.
And then the hydrilla is, to me, based on what you said, is a round, because hydrilla has a tendency to have a stiff edge on it, to where they would use that as an ambush, to where you can fish the hydrilla edge, which would be a round because you're not in it. And then below, to frog stuff on the top and all that, but then below it too is major.
The major.
That's the biggest hollow caverns underneath there, punching through, getting it down there.
When you see the guys and they have these miracle days punching, usually they're punching hydrilla, and usually what they found is a high spot,
a scrape
that they're punching over. Yeah,
I believe they call that a scrape.
I guess
a hard spot on a high spot.
Yeah, dude.
Where it's scraped clean and the fish are literally packed in there like cordwood, and it's just dong, dong, dong. Yeah. And they don't leave. When one moves, they just are like, oh, more room to eat.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the craziest thing I ever seen. I got my brains kicked in Florida one time on a punch bite, and that's when I went ballistic into this grass thing, because I said, I can't, every time I go to Florida, I get my brains kicked in. I can't do this anymore.
But that's why it also makes sense on when it is a grass bites, like you've just explained. It's very intricate, even though you may have hundreds of acres of what looks like the same stuff. If you watch a Okeechobee tournament, a St. Johns River tournament, sometimes a Gunnersville tournament, whatever fisheries are grass heavy, then everyone zoom, and that's where the saying, especially in Florida, correct me if I'm wrong here, is like, if you're not fishing around people, you're either going to win or you're going to get your ass kicked. Because if you're not fishing around people, you're typically not in high percentage grass, because the high percentage grass are small areas out there.
Yeah, I prefer not to fish in the crowd.
Mm-hmm. Which, as everything gets better and technology gets better with the bottom harness and stuff, it's harder and harder and harder. And then you take in the health of the lake and how much productive grass is, where you have the right mix with the clean water, the types of grass, and the hard bottom. And that's how you end up with 75 guys that you can cast freaking line too and hit all their boats.
Yeah,
over.
and it's nerve wracking. That's I have a tendency in those games is to look for the needle in the haystack. In those games because I don't want to be around people. I can't function good that way. It gets in my psyche, and maybe it's stupid, maybe it's not.
But more so just explaining why, like, yeah, I'm sure there's some bent rod pattern that's in there where it's like, oh, everybody's over there. I might as well go check. But there's also a lot of those guys who have experience like you do who are there because they know that that has all of the things that you just talked about, regardless of where it is. I mean, even up north on those tournaments and stuff. That's how you end up with so many guys in a small area because there are 8 different factors that all have to come together that you get it right. And then you're like, okay, well, that's where it is. And the grass guys all know that on Toledo Bend, on Rayburn, it's got good grass, that type of stuff.
Yeah. So you see especially in Florida, you see the flotilla on the grass beds. This is what cracks me up. There'll be 25 boats there. And like Matt said, you can literally cast as far as you can and you'll probably hit 3 of them. Okay. And there's only 2 guys catching them. Mm-hmm. You'll see a guy catch 1 every now and then, but there's only 2 or 3 that are really catching them.
That's the equivalent of 8 or 9 guys fishing the same spot on Erie, but there's only 2 guys that are casting to boulders and the rest are just dragging around the boulders where you're going to have an odd fish here or there.
Yes.
But the juice is only accessible to the guys who actually understand what's going on or the other guys aren't moving in on them. Same thing without grass, except with grass. Fair comparison.
Fair. Perfect example. The other day when I was out, I had a hard bottom. It formed a flat and a hook, and it was hard bottom. And when I got to the area, it was slam packed with coontail. Coontail was way off the structure, all the way out to 13, 14 feet, way off the structure, 100 yards off the bank. I caught one when I first got into the coontail. I caught one, and I thought, oh boy, here we go. I'm going to have to start heavy slip sinker rigging all the way down, and I'm doing that. I go about 25 yards. I catch another one, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be long, but we're catching them. And then I'm like, nope, I got to get to the structural element. I get to the structural element. I scope over to it, and it's clean on the hard bottom. It is clean, and the break line is totally clean. And there's a gap between the coontail and the hard bottom, and I threw the Nico rig up there, and I don't know how many I caught in a row. Boom, 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 boom. Same cast, same spot. And it was that, you know what I mean? It's that clean
little highway. So they weren't in the grass, but they were there because of the grass.
Yes.
That was an around the grass type of thing.
Yes.
Dude, this has been a badass one.
Well, I hope it's eye-opening. You know what I mean? Because, Matt, I got to be honest with you, dude. When I first started fishing Bassmasters and we would go to a grass lake.
I'm there now, Frank. That's how I am. That's why I asked so many damn questions today.
I would have anxiety. I would get an upset stomach.
Yes.
Because I'm like, all I'm doing is giving money away.
Yes.
This is crazy.
Yes.
And I made it an absolute 100% point the third time I got my ass kicked in Florida that this was never going to happen to me again. And when we were not fishing, I was on grass lakes everywhere I could find a grass lake where I lived. Every free minute I had until I started figuring this game out. And then once I figured it out, I felt like a complete moron because it's not complicated.
I was the same way. I mean, dude, I just was at the Mississippi River, and what did I do? I literally eliminated any grass in my game plan so that
I would have done the same thing. Dude, if this was, a dozen and a half.
Where's the grass? Oh, on Alaska, giant grass flat. Literally, guys gut, that's where I'm going. I'll figure them out in that grass. I went, okay, I'm not going down Alaska. Went to go put the boat in pool 8. Literally backing the boat down. I look out, and in the middle, I see emergent vegetation touching the surface, strapped the boat down and left. Ended up in, the only tail races, docks, marinas, bridges, rock, that type of stuff. Not because I thought it was the best pattern to win, but because it wasn't grass and there were fish there.
Yeah. And that's what I used to do. And I realized that if I don't learn this, I have no chance. And here, it was the best thing I ever did, because it opened up fishing for me that I never even thought about, to be honest with you. I never thought about it. Like, if I was the same way, dude. I'm going structure. There's grass here. I'm out. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm eliminating some of the highest potential for big bass.
The highest and the biggest
ever. And so I'm like, no. And it's made my winter fishing 100 times better. It's made my spring fishing. It's made all my fishing better. I don't like, I love structure fishing. So if there's not a blade of grass in the lake, it doesn't bother me one iota. Mm-hmm. But if I know the lake has grass structure potential, I'm in it. I'm there, because now I have the opportunity, when I find pods of them. Here's the other thing that happens in grass. When you find them, there's more than one there. Almost always there is more than one there. And so there was a lake I was on. It was actually an estuary that I was on in the summertime. And I got there early in the morning. The sun was barely coming over the treetops. It was still pretty dark out. I launched my boat, and there's a grass ridge that runs along this whole entire area from the mouth to the end of it. And I went down there with a Super Spook Junior, and all I wanted to do is get blow-ups. And so I went down there honking this thing, trolling motor moving, just doing nothing but casting. Everywhere I got a blow-up, I hit a waypoint. And I kept keeping on. I didn't stop and fish, nothing. I went down this entire grass edge, and I got like 15 areas where I got a couple of blow-ups. The sun comes up. I go back to the first place I got a blow up. I got a heavy slip sinker and a heavy jig on, and I absolutely hammered the brakes off of them. And the only places I could get bit were wherever I got a blow up from the morning. And so that top water showed me where they were.
And they just hunkered.
And when the sun came up, they just stayed put. And I went in there and meticulously I caught so many bass. This was the time when I was starting to put the grass puzzle together. You follow me? Mm-hmm. Wasn't dialed in on it yet, but I had some theories, so I went and tested them out. Now, the top water bite, I could have caught a decent amount of fish in the morning, because I did, because I wasn't throwing it hookless. I was catching them. But understanding that I catch 2 or 3 over here, I go 50, 60 yards, I don't get another bite, and then I catch 2 or 3 more, and then go 100 yards and catch 2 or 3 more, and so on. I realized that those were the areas that the bass were converging in. Later on, because I fished this place a million times before the grass grows, understanding that all these places I was catching them were the high spots. And I was like, holy shit. Well, the high spots and the drop offs. And then that's when the structure part of the puzzle started coming together for me. Now, this is going back umpteen years ago.
Yeah, you have a lot of good finishes on bodies of water that have grass on them. I mean, Shreveport, Okeechobee, Alabama, Potomac River.
Yeah, and here Okeechobee was crazy, because Okeechobee was the shell beds.
Yeah.
If I could find the grass, that the shell beds, and the grass was around or over the shell beds.
Same thing as a rock pile on Oneida.
100%, dude. 100%.
I hope this makes it easier. It's helped with me. Hold that. I need to get a good screenshot of this. Hold that map up again.
Which one?
With all the different grass with the little rock piles in there.
I got you covered, man.
Hold it down just a little. I might just have you send me a picture of that. Yeah, I'll just have you send me a picture of it. I'll change the thumbnail for that. That's phenomenal. And if you live on a grass lake and you're struggling with it and stuff, you're doing locker room sessions. If you want to, email you at, what's your email for the locker room sessions, where you can take a body of water, look at the map, work with guys on, hey, here's where I would check, here's high percentage areas, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's frank.scalish03@gmail.com.
Okay.
I'm doing this right now so I don't forget.
Okay. Bingo.
There,
That
look at
works
that,
perfect.
man. This is technology. You're seeing technology in action from an old geezer.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna close the show out on this. So I found some trading cards, some professional fishing trading cards from like 2000, 2001. I think Kevin Van Dam's first year was what, like 92 or something like that.
Something to that effect.
And at this point, he had been a pro for 8 years. So we're going to say around there. I mean, this is when you're like prime grinding, what, 2000, 2001. You're like prime grinding on the tour and the invitationals.
Yes.
You want to hear some of these crazy names?
Yeah.
Look how young Bernie Schultz looks.
Yeah, if you get mine, I probably had hair.
I don't think you're in here though. Were you a Mercury guy then?
No, not quite. I was still Yamaha.
Randall Romig.
Oh my God, yeah. Outstanding.
How about a young Oklahoma Kenyon Hill? Jimmy Houston, Gary Klein, Mike Reynolds. Remember Mike Reynolds?
I remember Reynolds.
Out of California. Look at a young, smiling Tommy Biffle.
That's before he had back pain.
Yeah. Here is Skeet Reese. All the vests. Stacy King. Mark Tucker. Rick Morris. Greg Hines. Chris Baumgardner.
Holy smokes, dude.
KVD. How about Arkansas's Rob Kilby?
Dude, where did you get all those?
My dad sent them to me. We got them. This might have been like 98 or something. I'm sure it could have come from the Classic. It might have been like right around there. But look at the Rob Kilby.
Oh my gosh, man. You got some good
Cochran.
ones.
How about I'll hit you with a Jimmy Mize. Jimmy Mize could catch him. And a Randy Best.
No, I don't know Best. I know Mize.
California.
I don't know Best.
California.
That's fabulous. That is absolutely fabulous.
There's also that guy. I'm trying to see if at this point he's got any electronic sponsors on his.
Yeah, he would have to have them back then. Because it was only 2D.
It's before when he realized he make more money. Back then he was making, he didn't realize he could make more money railing against the electronics than he could.
Yeah, exactly. That's so fun.
That's perfect. I got that. But I'll tell you what, last week, a little bit more lighthearted, bloviated, answer some questions, covered some stuff. The meat and potatoes of this show is built around the knowledge base that's in that dome right there. Frank Scalish, and today was an excellent example of that, taking some high-end stuff, breaking it down in layman's terms with real-life examples, with graphs, with mapping, with drawings. So the average guy like me, who is terrified of that stuff.
Same, dude.
Next time you come, there is one lake here. And the next time you come, there's one lake here, and it has a lot of different vegetation, and it has hydrilla in about 21 foot of water.
Damn.
And there's big uns in it. And I think that would be
that'd be fun.
That'd be a phenomenon, and it stays alive in the wintertime.
Yeah, dude.
It's like the only lake in Oklahoma.
How much dieback does it have in the winter?
Quite a bit.
Good.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, that'll make
it gets big in the summertime. Like right now, it's a punch deal and stuff, but it's got like rock piles. It's got double digits, a few. I mean, I've never caught my biggest out there is like a 9.
Yeah, you need to go there in the winter when most of the die back and do some side imaging.
Yeah.
Find some places. It could be so fruitful.
Yeah. Do we have a teaser? So next week is a couple more things, housekeeping before we get it. So this is the end of July, which means that the first week of August, which I'll be back from Champlain by then, is a new Frank Scalish limited edition
Signature bait.
Signature bait. Do we have any idea of what we might be working with on that would be an August 6th drop?
I do not. Every time I think I know and then I say it, it's wrong. So I do not.
Mystery drop.
I do
on
not
August
know.
6th.
Yeah, we're gonna, and then we're doing that contest.
Yeah. So the second thing is the Trailer Watchdog essay. Nothing like an old school essay contest.
Yeah, nothing like making you work for
up
it.
to a $500 value of that. We partnered with Trailer Watchdog, which gives you peace of mind while you're towing, while you're trailing, gives you axle temperatures, gives you tire pressure,
tire temperatures
too, all in an app that attaches to your trailer. You don't have to screw anything into it at all. You can have it installed. You can install it yourself.
Right.
You've got over 1,000 miles on it at this point.
Oh, well over now.
But the folks over at Trailer Watchdog said, hey, we want to give one of these away to a Day 4 listener. So
for they did it in honor of the 250th episode.
Correct. But
so,
we've got over a dozen so far, Frank, and they're gems.
Perfect.
If you have a nightmare trailering story, we're talking about, you're listening to greatest hits, country hits from the 90s. You got George Strait cranked and you're headed to the lake, and all of a sudden you look over to the left and you see your trailer tire going past you.
Or your boat passing you.
Or your boat. Or you have to get a fire extinguisher out because something is burning on your boat.
Something is amiss. Yeah, exactly.
Or you were stuck in a nefarious part of town late at night with a blowout that could have been prevented because you were rolling on a 15 PSI for the last 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Know it. We want to hear those stories.
Yeah. So I showed Brandon the other day when we were driving to the lake, the Watchdog in action. And he couldn't believe it. And his boat, he's got a single axle. And I'm like, dude,
that's what it looks like on the app, right?
Yeah. You could see the numbers. You could see the axle temperatures a little bit better on that. I just zoomed up on it on my phone. You'll see the whole temp, but that's what it is.
That's your actual phone?
Yeah, that's my actual. Yeah.
So that's what it looks like while you're rolling.
Yeah. And so when I pulled that up and showed Brandon, he's like, it does your axles? I said, yeah. And then we went through everything while I was driving. And when in the morning, because we were good and cool the other day. I mean, it was nice in the morning where like you had to wear a hoodie because you'd be shaking a little bit. The axle temperatures were 54 degrees. And then they warmed up about 8 degrees by the time we got to the lake. They warmed up about 8 degrees.
But email that story, your nightmare trailering your boat story, to matt@basszone.com, and then also info@basszone.com. You don't have to send them separate. Just put it in there. Just send it to both of them and put Trailer Watchdog story in the title so I know what it is. We'll combine all those. I'll give it to Frank. We'll read all the stories. And then if yours is selected, you can actually come on BTL in the middle of August. We're going to run this
August 13th, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to
and I think
August 13th we'll announce it.
Yeah, we're gonna pull Alex on for that episode.
Yep.
Good.
There's some good stories. There's some pickles that I'm glad that I have not been in, but I have been in most of them.
Yeah, same here, unfortunately. It's just we put a $90,000 boat on a trailer and we never look at the trailer and we always taking care of the boat. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Where are you getting that deal, Frank?
Yeah, sorry, bro. I don't need. Yeah, well, back in my, you
Well,
know,
that's the thing. This works on $15,000 bass boats all the way up to $150,000 bass boats.
yeah, and yeah, exactly, and
As long as your plug-in works.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. He's got a little screen that you don't even have to use your phone. A little monitor that he has one of those too, and you just put it on one of the phone holders and plug the USB in your truck, and you're good to go. You don't even have to mess with your phone if you don't want to.
We'll end it on this. You have one type of grass, one type of scenario to fish the rest of your life. What is your favorite submerged? We're not talking emergent. We're talking like right now, submerged summertime grass. What is your favorite deep summertime submergent grass bite?
Coontail all the way. Coontail all the way.
With what's your I mean, like you can pick anything. Like it's the ideal scenario. What are we chucking into the coontail?
What I like to do
you have everything done. Like they're set up in the coontail. You are deep cranking coontail.
Yeah, that's just so much fun. I love the heavy jig too. I love any way I'm catching them, to be honest with you. It's just fun.
You get to pick. This is your bread and butter.
But I will say my favorite way is deep cranking them, because it's just, now that always isn't going to be the case, but if I had to pick one way,
I gave you a scenario. I was just
I'm going to deep crank them.
Like someone said, Frank, you get one more day. But you're going to go out on the water and it's going to be exactly how you want it set up with the bait that you want it set up. And they're going to be chewing. You're deep cranking.
Yeah.
Just kind of feel it, get it stuck in there, comes out, feel a couple vibrations, and then just loads up.
Yeah, dude, all the way. I love when they blow slack in it, man.
That means they're coming at the bait, basically trucking it forward, and you've got to catch up. You're like, oh, there he is, and then the rod leans into it, and then it goes sideways, and the line slowly starts coming up, and you're like, don't jump, and then it jumps, and you're like, oh my gosh,
look how big it is. It's a giant.
Come on, baby. Come on, to sugar. Just stay pegged. Just stay pegged. And that's what you say when they're out. That as soon as they get closer, you start the no. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yes. No.
You know what's funny? I hardly even say anything.
Oh, I do.
I'll hook up and I'll just look over. If I'm with Frankie, I'll hook up. I go, this one's for real. That's all I say. Is this one's for real.
Co-anglers when you had nets. Like when I fished the Toyota series and stuff, because my subconscious response as a nice upstanding, I mean, I like him in the media, I try to be nice to everybody, is to just net. Like, I mean, I didn't even mean to. I would just start yelling aggressively for the guy to get the net.
Yeah.
And if I was in his position, I'd be like, yeah, I got it, bud. Chill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guy. When we had one, I think 1 year we were allowed to use nets. The guy's like, "Do you want me to net them for you?" I go, "No, I got them." Just like I go, "No, I got them." Just like that. He'd be like, "Are you sure?" I go, "Yeah, I got them."
This has been another edition of Day 4 with a man, Frank Scalish. Same time, same place. Next week. Check early, check often, lurenet.com for the Signature Series drop. We'll also talk about that Signature Series drop to kick off.
And hey, make sure you look for all the ICAST items on there. I ordered, before we went on, I ordered a pile of those gadget worms, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm ordering them.
That is one, like on that gadget worm, I would maybe soak that in some taku juice, a little bit of bite powder on it. Like give it a couple weeks to marinate in there, even if it's just not a placebo. A placebo effect would be like if you did so. It might have been, like it could be
it's just
as long as it's in your head.
It's a confidence builder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I mean, like what bass doesn't like a slow falling orange worm that smells like a shrimp.
Dude, those bass were puking up crayfish in my boat the other day.
Yeah, I think the thing imitates everything. I mean, you've got when you pop it, it goes doo doo doo. If you notice, if you pop it like with the rod tip, it doo doo looks like a crayfish swimming. If you drop it, it looks like a worm. If you twitch it on the bottom, it looks like a bluegill.
Yeah, tail up, milling around down there.
Or a gizzard shad eating the algae off of the bottom, like we've done in previous. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's good. I'm happy with it.
It's like the Nico rig is the sport coat with jeans look.
Yeah, and topsiders.
Like you can get into pretty much any restaurant.
They'll be like, yeah, no, okay, come on.
Yeah, but then other restaurants you go in, they'll be like, oh, fancy sport coat.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You wonder what this guy's up to. You know what I mean? The sport coat with jeans is the Nico rig. We'll talk to everyone next week. See ya.
Adios, see you guys.